Hello, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project. I have a special return guest, Miss Faith Torres, over in Gibraltar. Faith, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I've got a bit of allergies going on right now, so if I sound a bit funky, that's why. But I'm excited. I'm excited.
Got that unmistakable accent. I've had these, as you know,
Thank
I've interviewed people from all around the world, and I do love the Irish accent,
you.
but
Yeah.
the Gibraltar accent, there's something about it. It's very. Where does it come from? Because it's kind of from the UK, but it's not.
But it's
So
I think obviously I have a British accent. Every British accent is different, regardless of where in the UK that you go. I think it's because I'm in the southern point of Europe that I've got many other influences that feed into my accent, especially here. We don't solely speak English. So I think I've got other, Mediterranean accents going on at the same time. But I know you can just recognize a Gibraltarian accent from ages away. I hear someone, I'm like, that has to be a Gibraltarian. There's no way it's anything else.
you have to remind me what the colloquial term for someone from Jib is. I've forgotten.
Janita.
That's right. I remember. I remember now. I just blanked for a second. But for people watching who may not be familiar with you, because obviously we've chatted before when you were Miss World Gibraltar, and now you're Miss Grand Gibraltar. But for people who aren't familiar with you, do you want to give them the quick pageant 30-second introduction?
Got it. Okay, so basically, I was Miss Gibraltar 2022, and the winner of Miss Gibraltar goes to Miss World. And that's what I did earlier on this year. I was in Miss World 2024, and I stayed in the top 40, which I was very happy about. And now I am going to Miss Grand because we had, assigned a girl who was runner-up to Miss Gibraltar this year. But due to some work commitments and stuff, she wasn't able to go. And it was quite last minute. So I think our director was just like, you kind of know what you're doing. You've just gone, so you can go now. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Why don't you run us through how your experience in India for Miss World was? I haven't spoken to you about that. So how was it?
It was great. It was great. I didn't know what to expect because obviously that was Miss Gibraltar was my first pageant. So the international was my second pageant. I'm not, it's not something that I've done all my life or anything like that. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed getting to know all the different girls from around the world, getting to know different things about their countries and stuff. And yeah, it was great. It was really hot. It was really warm. But we had something going on every day, so it kept us busy and yeah, I had a really, really nice time. It was a great experience.
Miss World is one of the longest pageants, isn't it? Almost a month, like 4 weeks, going on 4 weeks.
I think it was 3 weeks, just shy of 3 weeks.
Right. That's still a long time in the Indian sort of, not just the heat, but the humidity. I mean, how long did it take you to recover?
I literally had my hair like this the whole time. And then I just put different extensions from here. So it looked like it was my hair, but I know my hair and that humidity, because it happens here, it's just, I can't hack it. And for everyone else's sake, I don't want anyone else to seem like that either. So
But how long did it take you to recover when you came back? Because it must have taken it out of you 3 weeks over there.
Yeah, I came back and I just slept for ages. Well, I crowned my successor that same week because we've just done Miss Gibraltar 2024 and I'm Miss Gibraltar 2022. But obviously, as the winner of Miss Gibraltar is, allocated to Miss World, they couldn't do another Miss Gibraltar until I had come back. And because the date was changed so many times, we didn't have one. Literally, we just didn't have a new Miss Gibraltar. But we had the cohort of contestants. They were doing the rehearsals, but they hadn't set a date. So they were like, oh, you come back on this day? Well, the next weekend, that's the show. I was like, I come back and I have to learn another show. I have to learn the routines for something else. But it's fine. It's fine. After that, I just crashed.
It still would have been sleep deprived and jet lagged. I think within a week. It takes a while coming back. I mean, I come back to Australia, which is obviously a different time zone from practically everywhere, and it takes a few days, especially coming back. I found it's worse coming back. Going there, you're full of adrenaline, especially going to Miss World, and so that keeps you going. But then when you come back and all the adrenaline's gone, you kind of just like...
Yeah, I didn't sleep on the plane too because I was so excited. It was like a 9-hour plane, right? I was just sat there like...
What tell me what it was like. I don't know how many girls there were over for Miss World, and as you mentioned, you're just reminding me now, it was the date and the location was changed so many times. I sort of gave up going, okay, it's happening this time. I'm like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
So obviously on the plane, it's happening. What was it like when you meet all these women from so many countries?
There was 114 of us, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's loads. And then I finally, every time they changed the date, I was like, firstly, I can't afford all these flight changes. Secondly, like, is it actually happening? We're all ready to go. Like, I was crowned in 2022 and I've been waiting the whole time, preparing the whole time, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of fun. And I was on the plane with Miss Northern Ireland, Miss Scotland, and Miss Belgium. We all left from London. So I kind of, and I was, with coincidence, that I was literally sat next to Miss Northern Ireland. So we bonded throughout the flight. That's how we became like besties. But it was really exciting, and just getting to know them, I already felt like comfortable. I was like, oh my gosh, what if like no one gets along, or I don't know. Never been to one of these, so I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, right? But I felt very secure and safe with the 3 friends I had already made. So when I got there, it was great. I was roommates with Miss Italy, who was very, very nice. We've got a lot of Italian speakers here in Gibraltar. I am not one, but I should be because my mom is half Italian, but we don't speak it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got along with everyone, and we were all kind of in the same boat of, is it happening now? Is it not happening now? What are we doing next? What's gonna happen? So yeah, it was great. We still talk on the group chat to this day.
Good to hear. I mean, that's a huge pageant. I've heard of pageants that have like roughly 90 or so. I think that might be the first time I've heard of a pageant that has over 100 contestants. I mean, it'd almost be hard to think of a country that didn't send a contestant if there's that many. So what's it been like since you've come back? I mean, it's always, we talk about pageant hangover. You know, you've been overseas, had this amazing experience that lasted 3 weeks. You came back, you crowned your successor, and now here we are. We're sending you again as Gibraltar's most famous export. Gibraltar's going to become known for sending Faith Torres overseas. But what have you been keeping busy with since, between when you came back and now?
Oh, I work full time. I work we only have one hospital here. And I work as a biomedical assistant to the scientists, because I've got a degree in biomedical science, but I couldn't do my practice because it was during COVID that I was in university. So we couldn't be allocated different hospitals to do the practice. So I plan on going next year to do my practice. It should only be a few months. And then I can work as a scientist. But right now, because I don't have that practice, I'm the assistant.
Right. So I'm imagining you don't spend much time in heels then as the assistant.
No, I still get called to do a few things. Like I hosted Miss Universe, our first edition of Miss Universe. I was the host. I've done loads of charity events. I still do that. I love doing that. But only for events like that would I put on heels. Now it's not an everyday kind of thing.
I think probably everyone around you who's shorter thanks you for that. Tell me, because last time we jumped on, I think you were a little bit worked up, a little bit nervous. I know we spoke a little bit about anxiety, I think. It's a long time ago. It's hard for me to remember. But you mentioned you've done so many appearances and emceeing Miss Universe, which obviously is the biggest pageant in the world. So how have you grown since we last spoke? Because I got to imagine after having done so many of these public appearances, you're probably a little bit more comfortable doing them now.
I mean, it gets easier. The nerves don't go away. Like I say that all the time to the contestants that were doing Miss Universe. I'm like, oh my gosh, Faith, I'm so nervous. I'm like, telling you now, it's not going to stop. Like, just accept that you're nervous and be like, okay, like it is what it is. Like, don't freak out about it. Like, you know what I mean? So it gets easier because you learn how to manage your emotions better. But I still freak out sometimes. Like, it is what it is. But I would say from when I was in Miss Gibraltar, like when I was crowned, I was so nervous. And now I'm doing things that, yeah, I still get nervous, but I wouldn't have dreamed of. You know what I mean? So it really is just throwing yourself in the deep end or working your way up to it, whichever way you see better. Personally, I was thrown in the deep end. But yeah, it gets easier. It doesn't stop, but it does get easier. And if you enjoy it, well, then I think it's a good balance. Like I'm like, well, I like doing this, feel like this, but I can deal once I know how to deal with this. It's not a problem.
Why don't you run us through some of the biggest things that you've done since then? Some of the things that have made you a bit nervous. I seem to remember you something over New Year's. You were called on to do something, but why don't you run us through some of the big things that you've done that have made you sort of go, oh my God, can I do this?
I mean, there's so many things that I've done that it's hard to just group it all together. I remember feeling really nervous for the New Year's countdown because my whole country is watching. I know there's like 10 people, but you know what I mean? Like there's still, it's everyone. And I remember being at dinner with my family before, obviously, the countdown. And they were like, Faith, did you want to have some of this? And I was like, no one speak to me, okay? Like, no one speak to me. I'm so nervous. Like, but I did it. And I wasn't by myself, which always makes it easier. With Miss Universe as well, I was so nervous, but I was with our director, Kelvin. So he's always got it like in the bag. He's great. So if I knew that I messed up, he can cover me. What else have I done? This doesn't seem like a big deal, but for me it was talking to schools. Oh my gosh, I could never be a teacher. Like that's when I realized, right, I'm so happy I didn't go into teaching because I don't think I can do this. But yeah, that was also very difficult for me. But
what were you talking about in schools? Were you talking about any subjects in particular, and how old were the kids as well?
Well, I've done a few. I've done a few of science, but it was just like about women in STEM. I've done the one that I'm thinking about specifically because they told me that morning or something, can you come this afternoon and just make an appearance? I'm like, but what? It was a bunch of year 2 students, so I think they're like 6. So it's not a big deal, but they were studying famous people in Gibraltar. And there's like no one. So I guess they spoke about Cayenne, they spoke about Albert Hammond, the composer, and a few John Galliano, a few of the well-known. But they were like, oh, and Miss Gibraltar. And then my mom's cousin is a teacher there. So she was like, can you just come this afternoon and just talk to the kids and this and that? And I was like, oh my gosh. I said yes, right? But I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm not going to speak to the young kids who want to hear from me.
I'm like, but what would I even speak to them about? Because at least when I was speaking about like women in STEM and stuff, they were older. So I could just speak like, you know what I mean? I can just speak to them
normally. Like an adult.
Yeah, like an adult. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I speak to these kids? I got to be like, hi, I missed your role. Like, but they didn't really like, not that they didn't care, but they weren't really like listening word for word. You know what I mean? They're 6. They were like, oh, Mr. Gibraltar's here, and that was it. I passed around my sash, passed around the crown, and that was it. Like they were like, wow.
Yeah, I would imagine if you're going there as Miss Gibraltar, all you need to do is show them the crown, and the girls at least will just be you could say anything you want. If you bring the crown.
They were like, wow, this is great. And obviously the teacher, my mom's cousin, spoke with me. So it's not like I was just there by myself in the deep end. We just spoke about like charity awareness, being a better person, being kind, and, basic things.
Important.
Things that would just, that, you have to do if you're a public figure. Just be mindful, be kind, you don't know who you're speaking to. Many people at different walks of life are going to speak to you. So just have to keep an open mind. That's basically what I just told them about.
So because you mentioned it was about Gibraltar's most famous people or famous celebrities. So do you get recognized and stopped on the streets like all the time, or no one knows who you sometimes?
Everyone knows. I don't want to say like everyone knows who I am around here, but we have one school, right? So I was in that school. Everyone around my age knows who I am because we're all in the same school. You know what I mean?
Everyone already knew who you were to begin with.
Yeah, we know who everyone is more or less, or at least you can link people. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'll meet someone and they'll be like, oh, I know this person. I'm like, oh, they were sat next to me in class, cool. Or do you know this person? Well, that's my sister, or that's my cousin, or you know what I mean? So we all more or less know each other, which is why I think the Miss Gibraltar pageant here is like a big thing, because whether you like pageants or you don't like pageants, chances are you know someone. So everyone watches it. You know what I mean? So yeah, people just, I guess we know who we are, but it's not because I'm Miss Gibraltar. Obviously, that's like catapulted me to the forefront of certain scenarios and certain shows and certain things that everyone watches, like the New Year's countdown or whatever. But I do sometimes get like, it's mostly like little girls who maybe will be like, and I'm like, hey.
I can imagine, because you're like 7 foot tall, so they're looking up at you going, oh, hi, like this. The New Year's countdown, so what did you actually have to do for that? Because you said you got really nervous for that. You know, there are certain famous New Year's, like dropping the ball here in Australia and Sydney. We have the fireworks over the Harbour Bridge. What did you have to do for the New Year's countdown?
Well, basically, we have a main square. It's called Casement Square. And they put this massive stage, like they did literally 2 days ago for National Day. Well, more than 2 days ago, 5 days ago for National Day. They did that for Pride. They do that for the big events. They put this massive stage there with all these lights, and then they film us, and there's a live audience, and anyone can come, because it's obviously in Main Street, right? So anyone can come. So it's always really packed. And not only that, it's live streamed on our only broadcast. So it's like the BBC, but it's called the GBC. It's Gibraltar. And it's live streamed there. And basically there was like a variety show. And then I just had to count. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know I've got this clock in front of me, but if I make a mistake, I've never been so under pressure to count down. Like, oh my gosh. And yeah, and then we just do the online stuff. They can tweet us, or they can send us Instagram messages and stuff, and we will, give dedications and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. But I was very nervous. I think I was more nervous for the magnitude of it than for what I actually had to do, because I wasn't by myself either. So it's just when I see a lot of people looking at me, I'm like, oh my gosh.
TV, and you don't have any idea how many people are watching at home as well. So there certainly would be some pressure. When you say count, like, did you have to do literally 10, 9, 8?
We counted up. I was like, should not, right? And they were like, no, you count from 1 to 12. And I was like, okay, we do 12 because of the 12 grapes. And then you have to, you don't know that tradition.
12 grapes?
Every countdown is supposed to have 12 grapes. And with every like ding of the of the clock, you have to put a grape in your mouth. It's like Chubby Bunny, but with grapes. That's what we do. I think that's a Spanish tradition, but it's a lot of fun, so we do it too.
So how okay, so what? Yeah, every time you count a number, you got to go from 1 to 12, and each time you count a number, you have to put a grape in your mouth.
I'd be like 1 grape, I'll like put it in like my cheek. 2, put it on the other side. 3, and until I get to 12, and I'm like, hallelujah, you know what I mean?
Okay. All right. So here you are, you're on GBC, you're in front of who knows how many people, everyone knows who you are, and you're having to count from 1 to 12, stuffing grapes in your mouth.
I didn't stuff the grapes in my mouth because my counts were important, so they had to be clear. But everyone at home was doing that. People in the audience were doing that. But no, I didn't. I just gave the 1 to 12.
Okay. Because I was going to say it would be quite a sight trying to count from 1 to 12 with 12 grapes in your mouth, trying not to have all the juice. That yeah, I would be quite nervous about that, I think. But why don't you tell the people also watching who don't know anything about Gibraltar, tell them a little bit about Gibraltar, because I feel it's a country that still a lot of people don't know much about.
No one knows. I went to Miss World and they were like, where are you from? And I was like, oh, Gibraltar. And they're like, where is that? I was like, no, it's okay. I know no one knows what Gibraltar is. So basically, Gibraltar is the southernmost tip of Europe. So we are very close to Africa on the western side. So I think it's 14 kilometers. That might be a bit of a stretch, but I think we're just 14 kilometers away from Africa. We join both continents and the Mediterranean Sea with the Atlantic Ocean. And we're in the tip of Spain, which is why we also speak Spanish here, even though it's not our official language, but because of proximity, we just speak Spanish here. And yeah, I think we are 2.6 square miles entirely, including the rock. If you don't know what the rock is, right, it's a weird description, but bear with, okay? It's this massive block of limestone in the middle of our country. It's huge. And there's more area inside the rock than there is land outside. That's how big it is. So it's, it's a symbol of strength. It's a symbol of solidarity. It's a symbol of perseverance, I guess. And yeah, we are known as the Rock of Gibraltar because it's the main thing here. Like, it's what everyone sees whenever I'm in doubt of anything. I'm like, right, okay. Like, if I have to know, like, why do I have to go? Or where's north, south? I'm like, right, I know the rock is on the east. So, okay. It's a good point to focus yourself on. Even if I'm driving in Spain, if I see the rock, I'm like, right, I'm on the right road. I just have to see it.
How far away can you see it from? When you say, because I've spoken to you and spoken to Jalen, I know about the rock, but how big is it? It sounds more like a mountain than a rock.
Shall I show you one? The thing is, yes, it's the size of a mountain, right? But because it's not land, it's stone. It's technically, it's not a mountain. It's a rock. Let's see if I can show you a quick photo of Rock of Gibraltar. Because there in the photo you see the rock and the land, which is, some of it is, well, the part I live on is reclaimed. So.
Oh wow! Okay.
So okay, so this is the entirety. Don't know if you can see it. That's Gibraltar. The little houses around, right? Like these little houses here. And that's the rock. So you understand why we're known as the Rock of Gibraltar. It's huge.
Yeah. Now I get it. It's literally a rock, and there's a few people living around it.
Yeah, it's a rock, and there's a few people around. But we're a huge center for maritime and things of that nature. Because you can see it from ages away. We're the center point of the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, Europe, Africa, and we're the passage where lots of migration happens in the animal kingdom. So there's loads of studies that go on here. We have one university that has like 3 courses, and one of them is marine science because it's so interesting to do here.
Yeah.
So yeah, and with like the birds as well, we see loads.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, we see loads of migrating birds. Like, it's a very beautiful place for nature and stuff like that. I think it's because of where we are on the map, and because there's more, even though we're quite built in like the town area, let's say, there's still the nature side of it still takes the lead in terms of area and stuff, especially because it's protected. It's a World Heritage Site, the rock. So it's protected, so we can't build on it, we can't we can't do anything. Like, all the animals that are up there, like the macaques, the apes, they're just wild. Like, we can't touch them. Well, we're not supposed to, but we can't touch them. We can't feed them. Like, it's their land. It's like almost like a sanctuary. You know what I mean? So
yeah. What's the lifestyle like? Because you just showed me that photo, and the first thing that I think is that, I mean, it looks like a tropical paradise, because you got this giant rock, and it's surrounded by, I don't know, that photo was Adobe photoshopped or something, but the water looks so blue, like it's like a bright blue. So I'm thinking, because I told you we're coming out of winter where I've been hibernating for 6 months. I just look at that and go, that looks like it's kind of idyllic and like a tropical paradise. But what's it like on a daily basis living there?
I mean, it really, in terms of climate, it's like the south of Spain, because this is where we are, right?
Yeah.
So it's really warm. It's very humid most of the year. Obviously, we have winter, but it doesn't. I think our lowest is on average like 10 degrees. So
right, okay.
Celsius. So it's not like, you know what I mean? It's usually quite warm. I wouldn't consider it like a tropical paradise, even though it might look that way. Because we get a lot of, being almost an island, right? We get a lot of crosswinds, especially because of the rock. We get a lot of like our weather. We get a lot of, like, I don't want to call it floods, but it does rain a lot in the winter. So it's a place to be in summer. It's great. It's nice and hot, and the sun is shining. Everywhere, the animals are everywhere. Like, it's really nice. But you know, I suppose it's kind of like the tropical islands where it's like 6 months one thing, 6 months the other thing. You know what I mean? But it's not that extreme. You know what I mean? I just during summer every day I go to like the beach or I go swimming. I just love swimming in the sea. I think I was like a fish in my past life or something because I love swimming in the sea. Like, no one can take me out of it. But yeah, there's a lot of things to do here. You can go up the rock if you like hiking or things like that. It gives great views. You can see Africa from here. You see the city lights of Morocco. You see Spain. You see the Bay of Gibraltar. You see the runway. You see the planes coming in and taking off. You see the Mediterranean Sea. The ships going by. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. But day to day, I don't know. It's because I live here, so I don't like go to look at or go. I don't go up the rock as much as maybe someone from here should. I just go to work full time. I walk past, like our main gardens and stuff. Like Commonwealth Park is really cute. It's something that I walk past every day to go to work. And yeah, almost everywhere you are, you'll see the sea. It would be very strange if you don't see the ocean, regardless of where you are in Gibraltar, because it's everywhere. Like from my work, I can look out one window and the sea's there.
I can't imagine what that's like. I mean, here in Sydney, we're relatively close to the sea, but you know, being part of the UK, there's a lot of. It doesn't sound like the UK at all. Like, I mean, UK barely has a summer, if you can call it that. And then during winter, I promise you, I mean, I don't have to tell you, it definitely gets below 10. I know, I've been there. And you certainly don't get to see the sea from wherever you are in the UK. No, I love being near the sea. I think it has a certain just calming effect, even just the smell of it, the sound of it. So does it make you does it feel a bit weird when you're traveling and you don't have that sort of the sea everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think about it as much because I don't like when I'm in Jib, it's not something that I'm always like, oh, there's the sea. Like, it's just always, I don't think about it. So it's like always, you know what I mean? But then as soon as I'm somewhere else and it's not,
you notice it missing. Yeah.
I'm like, I notice it missing. And I notice because Gibraltar's so small, everything else, like anywhere else I go, like I lived in Oxford when I did my undergraduate degree. And just the fact that it's like endless land around me, you know what I mean? Like, this is endless landmass. Like, how does this work? Like, in Gibraltar, you walk and eventually you're gonna hit the sea. Like, you end up in a beach. You are, unless you go one direction, which would lead you to Spain. But there's always like an end to everything. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I guess that might just be a fear of me getting lost out there because I'm not used to it. It's being so vast. but yeah, I think this little place is a very little humble home, and we all get along, and we all like know each other. We're all friends, so I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It sounds nice, and it definitely sounds like visiting time is summer, not winter. Do you need a car to get around in Gibraltar at all? If it's that small, it sounds like you can just walk everywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna walk from the border with Spain, which is the like north point, all the way down to our lighthouse, which is the tip of Europe.
Right.
That's a bit of an extensive walk. It's not impossible, but it is like, I don't know, a couple miles maybe.
That's not too bad.
For me, it's awful, but because that's the longest I can walk, so I'm like, oh, no way. But you can walk everywhere because, I mean, our airport, our runway where the planes take off to our city center is only 800 meters. So if you walk to the city center, surely you're like, well, I can do the rest. You know what I mean? So you just keep going.
So that because I remember, I don't know if it's a photo I saw from you or I looked it up after I spoke to you the first time, and I saw that the airport literally seemed to be right in the middle of the city, and there's like cars stopped on either side. So when a plane comes in to land, if you're like in one of the buildings nearby, are you seeing a plane just go right past you?
Yeah, you can hear it all across Jib. Maybe the people by the lighthouse don't hear it, But right now I'm in Upper Town and I hear it at every plane. And when I'm at work in the hospital, every plane, I'm like, oh, there's a plane. Or if I'm like, wait, or anything happens, or I'm waiting for someone to come over, or whatever, I'm like, there they are. But no, since the last time we spoke, they've actually stopped vehicles crossing the runway. Yeah. I guess they've just made like this other route that goes around the runway instead. And it goes like almost underground, like past a beach. And then you come up on the other side. So we don't have to constantly like put the barriers through and all that. I mean, to walk it, yeah, people still walk across. It's a main road. If you want to walk to Spain, you have to cross it. Like, there's no other way. Go around the carway now. That's very long to walk. It's not, well, it's Jib. It's not very long, but you know what I mean. Like, it's significantly
long for you guys.
only yeah, significantly longer than the runway. So, yeah, I mean, that landing strip connects main Jib, let's call it, to the border.
Wow. That I can't think of any other country I've ever seen where you can drive across the runway. It does make a certain amount of sense that they don't want cars driving across the runway.
It was a main road until like last year, but it's that we didn't have another option. Like, that was it. Where else were we going to put the airport? Firstly, and secondly, that's the only way into Spain. Can't have that.
I guess if you're 2.6 square miles or whatever it is, it's not like you have a lot of choice as to where to put the runway or where to put your airport. So when is, going back to the pageant just for a second, when is Miss Grand coming up? It's coming up soon.
So I leave on the 2nd of October. I leave on which is quite soon. I leave on the 2nd of October. I fly to London. And then on the 3rd, I start making my way to Cambodia. So we were given the dates, the 3rd and the 4th, to arrive. Those were the arrival dates. But obviously I have to leave on the 2nd because I have to do more stops.
Yeah. And is everything under control? Are all the bags packed? All the clothes done?
Yes. No, yeah. I don't have my things packed, no. I was literally told I was going like 2 weeks ago. So I've been trying to do like all the forms, the official stuff, my official photos, the flights, that kind of thing. And I've got like a few things on the way that still haven't been done, like the national costume, dresses, like the main stuff. And then for the day-to-day things, I mean, I've got a whole wardrobe from Miss World. I'm not going to just copy paste it, but I'll definitely, I think I've got an advantage there because I've got those are nice pieces that I can still wear. I can't hear you.
Somewhat similar? The climate?
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I was just talking about Cambodia because you were talking about you have your wardrobe back from India. Is the climate in Cambodia, would it be anything similar, like warm and kind of humid?
I've been told, and I've looked like on the weather apps. I mean, I always trust that it's like summer there. It's like our summer.
Right.
So it's quite warm and stuff. But I still have to make sure, because when I got to India, obviously I packed for like 35-degree weather because that's what it was. But in many places that we went to, they were like, you can't show your shoulders, you can't, show chest, your back, cover your knees, like that kind of thing. So I just have to check that, because that's why when I was in India, I was like, well, I've only got one dress that covers all that. So many of my photos is just me in the same dress. So I'm just going to check that, because I didn't do that before when I went to India, and I probably should have. But yeah, I guess. And only half is in Cambodia. The other half is in Thailand. So I'm going to have to take two different like wardrobes, you know what I mean? We spend, I think so I leave on the 2nd and the show's on the 25th. So I think we spend like almost 2 weeks in one and almost 2 weeks in the other. It's like 10 and 10 almost. So yeah, I'm gonna see, now that I've got like the itinerary and stuff, I'm gonna be like, right, for this I'm gonna wear this, and it goes in one suitcase for one country. This I'm gonna wear this, it goes in that side, and then I'll do the other one. I don't have much time, quite soon, but
yeah. That's sooner than I thought. I didn't realize it was basically in 2 weeks you're flying out. That
Yeah,
came around
literally, I've
quickly.
just taken my official photos last week and I sent them yesterday. So it's all very rushed for me because it's not something that I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
thinking about. Like, it was last minute, like, Faith, someone's got to go. And do you want it to be you, kind of thing? I was like, well, I guess, yeah, let's go.
I mean, you can always speak to Jaylin about her experience. I'm sure she can, tell you the ropes.
Literally on WhatsApp, I'm like, girl, I've got more questions. And she's like, Pyro.
That is pretty last minute. I mean, it's a huge pageant as well. It's not like it's a tiny pageant that no one's ever heard of. But if we just back up for a sec, so you're flying into Cambodia, and you guys are there for 2 weeks, but then the final show will be in Thailand.
In Bangkok, Thailand, yeah.
Right. So in Cambodia, what will you be doing in Cambodia? Is there any sort of show in Cambodia, or are you more going to see the sights, see certain things?
I have sightseeing scheduled in both countries, which is something I'm very excited about, because when I was
Yep.
in India, I felt like I was there, but I didn't
Yeah.
really see a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want people to think like, oh my gosh, they had you trapped in the hotel. No, but we didn't have sightseeing scheduled. We had to do certain events, or we had to go
Yeah.
to certain places, but it was very controlled. Like, you're going to go to this memorial, you're going to get back in the bus, you have to go to this thing, you go back. So I did see, but it wasn't sightseeing. So it wasn't the main attraction of India, let's say.
Yeah.
And the tourist in me wanted to see it. Like, I was like, I can't believe I'm in India and I haven't seen an elephant, like, or a tiger, or like, you know what I mean? Like, apparently there's lots of animals here, and I didn't even see one.
Wow.
So it was just little things like that that I would have done as a tourist. But again, I have to understand that when I go to these pageants, I'm not a tourist. It's, I'm representing. There's a schedule to this. There's a form in which the organization will follow. But we've got sightseeing scheduled in both countries, so I'm super excited. I'm taking my little camera for that. And yeah, so the main chunk of it, like the preliminary, the national costume and all that, is in Thailand. But we do have, I think, the swimwear parade and stuff is in Cambodia. I haven't like looked at it that closely, or I have, but like I don't know it. Like,
You haven't memorized it yet.
I haven't memorized it. I know that the preliminaries and the main show and all this is in Thailand, but there are things that we have to do in there.
Yeah. Okay. Is it always held across two countries? Like when Jaylin went to compete, was that in two countries as well?
It was just Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why this has happened, but something did happen with the host country, because it was supposed to be Myanmar, no? They did.
I seem to remember that. Yeah.
They announced one country in the last edition. So when Jaylin was there, they announced, oh, this is the next host country. And then a few months ago, they were like, no, the countries is this and this. I was like, oh, but obviously I was like, cool, like, got nothing to do with me, kind of thing. And then now all of a sudden, like, it's got everything to do with me right now.
Yes, it probably has something to do with you more so than it did maybe 2 weeks ago. But I don't know. This seems to have been going around pageant land recently. Is changes in venues and changes in dates. I mean, Miss World. I mean that was like, I don't know how many, 5 times, 6 times, and then and then Grand, and I think it was Cosmo. Was it Miss Cosmo or one of the other ones? They were supposed to be in the United States, but now it's changed and it's going to be in Southeast Asia. And I'm like, I don't really know how it works, because it's not like it's not like a small change, right? Because it's not like, I'm just going a day later. It's like, you just change your flight to go from the United States and go to Southeast Asia instead. I'm like,
not like, we're just going next door. Like, it's not next door.
Yeah, so I don't quite know what's happening there, but that means then you need 2 visas, right? Because you're going to 2 different countries.
You need a visa for one. As a British citizen, I think it's only one of the countries.
Right.
It's being processed right now. So
okay.
You might see me there, you might not, but
Well, I hope that
hopefully by the time I get on the plane, I have it.
Well, if you get on the plane, you don't have it, you'll be coming straight back, that's for sure. I just hope it's faster for you guys, and it can sometimes be here, because it can take a while sometimes to get a visa, and it'll be a pretty short trip if you don't have one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I should be fine. I did it as the earliest time I could, obviously.
Yeah, of
I did
course.
like the express version or whatever. I was like,
The
yeah, this is
express.
I'm like right now.
Yeah.
So
I've done that before, and it cost me quite a lot of money to get the express version. So, do you have? Oh, I think is this your sister, Isabel Torres,
it's my niece.
your niece? She said the most amazing ambassador and auntie. Oh, I should have read that.
Oh, wait, I know
Making us.
how
Here you
do I say
go.
that?
There. Can you see that?
Oh yes. Oh,
And
she's
then
my
she's. You have a fan. We cannot wait to see you shine on that stage. I saw some animals.
she came to
LOL.
India.
Oh, right.
She
Okay.
came to India and she did the touristy stuff, right? And she was like, yeah, yeah.
Maybe you can do a swap. She will make it. She is meant to walk that stage. So, I mean, on that note, I mean, obviously, it's super last minute. You really are becoming Gibraltar's most famous export. Do you have time to do any preparation or anything like that? Because it just sounds like it's manic. Just let's make sure that we have everything. We have our ticket. We have our visas. It doesn't leave much time to do preparation. Not that you would need it because you did Miss World just barely a year ago.
And to try my best. That's all I can really do. Have a great time whilst I'm there and make some nice friends. And I think that for me, that's like the apex of any pageant. Just go have a good time above all else. And then if you happen to do well, it's great. You know what I mean? But it's not gonna it's not the end of the world if you don't. So and Kelvin was like, the director was like, we need to send someone now. And I think his choice in asking me had to do with the fact of she already kind of knows what she's doing. So we don't have to spend ages preparing. Obviously, he'll help me with catwalk because every pageant has their different things. Especially there was no swimwear in Miss World, so maybe I'd have to practice that a bit more because it's something I haven't really done before. We will prepare, but we just don't have the luxury of time to do intensive preparations. So
yeah, I mean, but sometimes that works better, right? Because you have actually less time to freak out and worry about things. You just have to do it.
I'm literally just like getting things that I need here and there. I'm like, okay, here's my visa. I've sent my passport, this and that, and I'm just gonna go, I guess. Like it's a little holiday.
I just have this sort of image in my head of you and Jay Lynn just being sent to every pageant to represent Gibraltar, and you just have to swap the pageants around you.
We just no. She couldn't go again. I mean,
to say that's the one pageant she can't go to because she was just there.
I was like, I told the director, like, why didn't you ask Jacqueline? And he was like, girl, like she went, like, you can't do that again. I was like, why don't you ask Michelle, which was my second runner-up? She's getting married. She's getting married now. So again, like, can't wait. I guess I was one of like the only options of like, look, Faith, you either go or you don't go, but it's got to be you kind of thing.
Okay, so what pageants will you be going to next year then?
I don't know. Maybe someone else drops out somewhere.
I think you might be the first person I ever speak to who ends up going to World and then Grand, and then maybe next year, who knows, you'll go to Universe, and then you might have gone to all the pageants just by yourself.
So I'm just gonna like tick all the boxes, just go to all of them. Yeah, just doing my little tour around the pageants.
You're going to go to all these countries and you won't have seen any of them because you're seeing them all through pageants. Isabel said the best thing is that she is adored by all of Gibraltar. We are all behind her. Is Isabel slightly biased, or is this the truth?
I mean, I would say she's biased, but honestly, on the point of Gibraltar's support, I don't think any country has as much support as Miss Gibraltar. Not just me, like any Miss Gibraltar will have every year, because again, chances are we know who this is, and it's just a very tight-knit community. And when you're representing someone on like a world stage, Gibraltar isn't really recognized in many places. So it's always like, oh my gosh, Gibraltar, like she's a Janita and she's there. Like it's so cool because we're not that recognized in many things. Like if we go, like, for example, we had in the past like an Olympian, but she fell under Team GB. It wasn't just Gibraltar, you know what I mean? And Gibraltar say to people like, oh, the British Empire or whatever, they're never going to tell you about Gibraltar, right? Like, it's just not a thing. So when we have that representation, we all back it regardless of the girl. So yes, I would say that, and I think you saw my videos on the Tadoba Tiger, which was a social media challenge for Miss World. More than half our population filmed a video for me or took a photo for me. Yeah, and obviously that doesn't like match up to the rest of the world because we're only 30,000, but over 15,000 people took that photo. So it's more than half of my country, you know what I mean? So for me, that's a win because no other country has that.
Way. That's amazing. I don't think any other country would ever be able to boast anything near that.
Yeah, and in 2013, at Miss World, we won the public People's Choice. The smallest place won with the most votes because we were all like, everyone was like, we're gonna vote and then we're gonna vote again, and then we're gonna vote again, and that's just how it happened. And she won, and she was top 6. Marwa.
Why is that? What is it in Gibraltar that makes everyone sort of come together, pull together, and they're all so loyal? Because that's, I mean, I've heard of certain countries being more friendly and things like that, but to have like to those things, like winning a People's Choice when you're like probably the smallest country there, and then having half like population of 50,000 and getting 30,000 and having 15,000 take that photo. Why is that? Have you ever thought as to why everyone in Gibraltar is so sort of loyal?
I think because we have like a shared experience, like regardless where people come from, we have a very mixed community. I said this last time, we all come from different backgrounds, we're multi-ethnic, we've got many religions here, but we're all Gibraltarian first. And I think that's one of the beauties of Gibraltar, that regardless of what we believe or, individually, the way you want to take your path, we're all Gibraltar first and we have a shared experience. We all went to one school, like we all do these things together. And because of proximity, you support each other, because I think people think, like, for example, with me, I'm just Faith from Gibraltar. Like literally people here are like, oh yeah, she was in my science class. Or yeah, she went to dance with me. Or she did this, or she did that. Or I saw her here. We have as well, like, this is gonna sound insane, we have one nightclub. Like, oh my gosh, she was dancing with me last weekend. Like normal things like that. You know what I mean? Normal things that, like, the sociable things we all kind of do together. So we're all friends. And I think if they see me or someone like me, they think that could be me one day. Maybe not necessarily but in anything. Like we've got many sports here. Sports is huge as well. Like we send people abroad to represent and stuff, and they get similar kind of the support, if not more. So because it's like a whole team. So
Yeah.
I think we're just very united, and I think that's what keeps us living in this little harmonious society, regardless of what any other personal circumstances. And I think that's something that the whole world should see. Because unfortunately, a lot of conflict that happens nowadays is for fundamental things like race, religion, things like that, or land and stuff like that. And because it's always been a thing for, like, I've never thought about, oh, this person is a different religion, or this, because they've always been here. They're always the person sat next to me in class. They're always a minister. They're always, you know what I mean? They're the teacher. We're all so mixed that we don't, it's regardless of what you are, you're just someone else who's Gibraltarian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
Of a Gibraltarian. So I think everyone can kind of see themselves when I go abroad and represent and stuff. I think everyone can kind of see themselves in me, kind of thing. So that's why we would have that support. And again, it's not just me, it's anyone who goes to represent Gibraltar and does it relatively well. like they're like, wow, yeah, you did great.
Yeah. What was it like when you were over in Miss World and they call out, Miss Gibraltar or Miss World Gibraltar? That must have been a pretty good feeling, no?
Oh my gosh, I did not expect that. I didn't expect it because Gibraltar, we've placed twice previously. One was obviously in 2009 for Cayenne, but she won a fast track event. She won Beach Beauty. So she qualified anyway. And then Marwa in 2013 won the People's Choice. So she qualified also. And then when they started calling all the fast tracks, I was like, I'm not any of those fast tracks. So I'm just gonna stand right here. I'm gonna applaud. I'm gonna have, a great time. Like, this is it. And then like, now we're gonna move on to the judges' choices. And I'm like, Gibraltar. It's never been a judge's choice, like it's just not a thing. And then they called my name and I genuinely could not believe it. If something, I thought I was going to win that tiger thing because again, everyone, the governor did a video for me, the ministers did videos for me. Like, I thought Kayan did a video for me. They were like, wow, like maybe, she's got all of Gibraltar backing her. Like, but then I didn't win that. So I was like, well, that's it. Like, that's it. That's my hope gone. But then they called my name and I genuinely couldn't believe it. And I made breaking news here. And everyone said when I got back, everyone was like, how in the football you hear like different houses start cheering and the horns and the sirens on the car and that kind of thing? That happened when they called you forward, because it doesn't usually happen. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And apparently in the hospital, I figured this out because my dad was admitted not that long ago, because he has like heart problems and stuff, which is why I work close with the Cardiac Association. But anyway, I was there visiting, and they were like, that one of the nurses was like, are you were you in Miss World? Yeah. I was just sat there with my dad. I was like, wait, yeah, I was. I went, and because everyone in this ward asked us to bring in TV screens to watch you. And I was like, no way, really? So the wards in the hospitals asked for TV screens to watch me. Like, that was
I've never I've heard of pageant crazy countries, a lot of them in Southeast Asia or South America. I've never heard of in the hospital all the people in the water calling for TV so they can watch their girl compete. Your niece has put she's put here, when they called you for top 40, Gibraltar went crazy. And it does sound like literally the whole country was watching you and backing you.
Because we're not pageant crazy here. Like, we're not a powerhouse. We don't, just get titles and placements as it happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we're not pageant crazy. We're just like people crazy. Like, they're like, oh, we support her, even if I wasn't doing a pageant and it's something like, you know what I mean? I think the thing about Miss World is it's such a big stage and everyone is watching. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just love how supportive Gibraltar is, and it's not just because we love pageants or whatever, because that's not really the case. But we are proud of our representatives. We always are. And I think since 2009, we saw, like, I would say hope. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, they do recognize
we have a chance.
Yeah, like, they do recognize this. It happened once. Why couldn't it happen again? So every time someone would place, like Michelle in Miss Supranational, she placed as well. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, like, this is great. Like, you know what I mean? So we just support each other. And I think that's what keeps us going. And I think that's what should keep everyone and every country going.
Yeah, I do love the fact that they're supporting people, not necessarily the pageant. It's much more about the person than, the sash or the crown on your head, and I think that's the way it should be. Isabel, if you're still watching, I'm going to wrap up with your auntie soon. So if you have any questions for your auntie, you want to put her on the spot, ask her a really tricky question, or you can be nice and give a really easy question, then I'll put it in the comments and I'll pass it on.
Who's your favorite niece?
She's also written that I think Faith could hear me from the crowd.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, I noticed how loud, especially her in Miss Gibraltar, in my national, I could hear her so clearly because she was Miss Teen Universe's princess. So she was at the front as well when I was competing in the national, and she was all I could hear, like, so loud.
I couldn't hear the announcer. All I could hear was my niece screaming at me.
Yeah, and then when they called in Miss World, when they called Gibraltar, I'm like, considering the only people here who would remotely support me and cheer is my siblings, my parents, my director, my niece. And 2 of my aunties came. How are you making so much noise? Like, how are you making so much noise?
That's very, very cool. I mean, I'll ask Isabel. Isabel, did you lose your voice after that? Because that's a thing that happens when you're screaming too loudly in a pageant crowd. Is afterwards you kind of lose your voice.
Yeah, she did. On the plane back, she was like, "So, let's go to get our suitcases." And I was like, "Good."
Yeah, you start sounding like you've got that, 50 cigarettes a day kind of husky voice. All right, so Isabel is she said I couldn't speak for a few days. So Isabel has a question here for you. We'll get to that in a second, but let's just go to the close. So before we wrap up, we can do the same 10 questions as we did last time because I don't remember. The only answer of yours I remember is your answer about the iPhone. Your iPhone turning the volume down. I do remember that one. Yeah. But before we do that, do you have anyone you want to give a shout out to for supporting you?
Oh my gosh. All of Gibraltar. All of Gibraltar, because they've shown me through Miss World how supportive they are, and I really feel secure. And just because I have everyone supporting me, no matter how much, even if it's just a, hey, you did great, or a simple comment on a video or a photo, or some people have been like, look, we really appreciate that. Whatever it is, from the charities to schools to anyone, I really felt secure and safe, and I felt like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, and I felt comfortable regardless of the outcome. I'm like, I've won. Like, in my head, I'm like, I've won. Like, everyone supports me and everyone recognizes the work that I've done. So regardless if I have a crown at the end of the international or not, I'm still super grateful, and they support me regardless. So for me, shout out to my fellow Janitos. We're great. We're great. And everyone should see that. Special shout out, obviously, to my director, Kelvin, for choosing me, for asking me if I wanted to go. And for all the help and the last minute things. Like, we both have to do it together. You know what I mean? If I'm stressed, obviously, and he's probably more stressed. So yeah, everyone who keeps me in check, everyone who helps me with anything, whether it's, just a few freebies from a little makeup shop or a thing here and there, or shout out wherever. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I'm always super, super grateful. And who knows, maybe in a couple of years I can go to Miss Universe. I don't know. But
yeah, I'll speak to you then. We can have another interview when you get sent to your next, and hopefully you get more than 2 weeks notice, but who knows? I mean,
yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Okay, let's zip through these final 10. As I said, they're the same as last time. I don't remember any of your answers apart from the iPhone one. So number 1, what is your favorite word?
Oh my gosh. When you speak more than one language, this is a difficult question. My favorite word.
It can be in a language other than English if you want. We can learn it. I can learn a word in another language. That'd be cool.
I love our Gibraltarian words because it's not English and it's not Spanish. It's just a mix of a bunch of stuff. Like, I can give a couple of examples. I'm not saying that these are my favorite words, but the way that they're formed might be like my favorite word. So here we, like, for a pavement is just pavement. In Spanish, it's acera. Here we say marchapié, which is kind of, in Italian, it's marciapiede, I think. And in French, it's something that sounds similar. So we've kind of squashed all that together and have said that the word is marchapié, even though we know that doesn't exist. We have other things like cake. In Spanish is dulces, but we say quequi. It's just quequi. We say for sweets, instead of in Spanish, it's caramelos, we say chucheria. You know what I mean? There's little words like that you'll only hear in Gibraltar, which for me is my favorite dialect. It's not just because I speak it, just because it's a dead language, because less than 30,000 people speak it. So I feel really like unique when I speak in my little special words here and there.
I'll have to see if Duolingo has Gibraltar as a language that I can learn, because it it doesn't sound like learning Spanish will help that much because all the words are completely different.
We have an Instagram. We have an Instagram called Janito Janito. Literally just like stuck together, Janito Janito, and it has all of these terms. And it says this is the English, this is the Spanish, and this is what we say.
I'll have to brush up before I have my Gibraltarian visit. Okay, so that I've learned a few words now. What about number 2? What is your least favorite word?
Oh, my least favorite word. I don't know. I don't think I have a least favorite word. There's some words that are like ugly, you know what I mean? Like some words are just ugly sounding, but I can't put my thing on what I probably do, right? And I'll probably be talking one day, I'm like, I should have said this.
Yes. But well, you can message it to me when it comes it comes to.
I know Jaylene said, I don't know if it was her favorite word or her least favorite word, but she said the word hullabaloo or something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, that was her most favorite word.
Until I heard her say it, and I was like, whatever that is so cool.
I can now that you say that, I can remember the exact way she sounded when she said it, and it's such a funny hullabaloo. Yeah, it's such a fun
accent. It would be hullabaloo. That is so like, someone's just on fake accent.
That is such an. It's not an odd word, but it's an old word. Like, I don't think anyone has really used that for probably 30, 40 years. So to hear that, that was definitely the only time I've heard that word. Okay. So number 3, in life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
Ooh. I guess I don't know if it's the anxious brain in me, but I always have to have everything more or less scheduled. You know what I mean? So nothing catches me off guard. So then I get like really stressed about things. So what gets me through like my day-to-day life and what gives me like a little satisfaction is, this is going to sound like such a nerd thing to say, I make little lists and little post-it notes and things like that. And when it just looks really nice and it's all in beautiful colors, that for me gets me through the day. If I don't have that, that's okay, because some days I'm like, don't want to do anything. But more often than not, I'm like, oh my gosh, when I have like loads of things to do in one week, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's really stressful, but it's a great calendar, very colorful, love it. So yeah, probably things like that.
Yep. Okay, got that. And this is the person that we're sending to Miss Grand and giving her 2 weeks notice, is the person who loves to have a calendar all scheduled. But that might have screwed up your calendar a fair bit.
Yeah, but I have kind of the same thing every day. It's like go to work, go see family or friends, and I do something sociable, something to exercise. I always think something to exercise my body, something to exercise my mind, and something that's like to exercise my aura, let's say. So like watching a sunset or, you know, things like some wholesome things. I try and do one of those every single day. Like at least like those 3, at least one example of each every single day. So yeah, I just have more or less the same routine every day with different variables. Like maybe one day I'll go to the beach, or maybe I'll go up the rock, or I'll go for the sociable things. I'll see my family, or I'll see my friends. Like it's always something different, but it ticks the same box on my post-it note.
Yes.
So, and
that's
then in terms of like,
smart way of doing it.
In terms of like the mental exercise, I can either practice mindfulness, or I can do like a crossword or a puzzle, or I play trivia with my boyfriend, like little things like that, you know, but working with scientists and essentially being one of them, I get enough mental exercise as it is. So I kind of just...
To hear that, that's probably the way it should be.
Yeah, so that is always the one I don't have to think about because I do it all the time. But yeah, what was the question?
Well, that I asked you what in life what gets you excited, and your answer was calendars.
Yeah. Because
so then the next...
It's fulfilling.
Well, then the next question. So that's what turns you on. So the next question, then, what turns you off?
You hate, right? Oh, this is gonna sound weird, and it's not what it is. People. Some people, man.
And we'll just leave it right there. People.
People. But obviously not all people, right? But some people, I understand people have different internal struggles, or they've been through different parts of whoever. But doesn't cost anything to be nice and respectful. You know what I mean? As soon as I see, like, I hear someone make really nasty comments, or I see, like, sometimes in the lab, I'm by the window. Some people aren't that nice. I'm like, girl, I'm just working. Like, what do you mean? Like, why are you being so rude? Like, you know what I mean? It's little things like that that just, oh, it boils my blood. It literally boils my blood. Anyone being rude, disrespectful, mean, very, or causing like public disturbance. I'm like, surely nothing warrants this unless someone's like dying. Like, which is never the case. Always something stupid like, you looked at me the wrong way. And it's like, girl, what? Like, what? Are you just here? Are you just in the mood to have an argument? Like, I don't, it's things like, so people, but not all people. When people get into certain moods, or when people are just rude, or you know what I mean? It's certain types of people. That was better said. Certain types of people can't deal.
I got it. Yeah. I think it would have been really funny if we just left it as the answer as people without any explanation. And then you won't be Gibraltar's most famous export after that. Let's move on. So number 5 is a sound question, which I think was your iPhone answer. But number 5 is, what sound do you love?
What sound do I love? Oh, this is gonna sound weird. Like, well, actually, no. Like nature. Like when I'm at the beach and it's like sunset and I hear the waves and I hear, you know, things like waves crashing on rocks on the shore, things like that, or something simple like, this might be a very unique thing to Jib, but when I go up the rock and I can hear the monkeys swaying on the trees, I love it. They're so cute. It's just nature doing its thing. Like, no one's put that sound there. No one has made that sound. The world has made that sound. You know what I mean? It's so cool. It's so cool. I would say nature is my favorite. I don't remember what I answered last time. My answer could have been classical music is my favorite sound, but I don't remember. But if I had to give one, I think it would be nature or something like classical music, because it's not like, it's like the world making noises. It's not, I don't know how to describe it, but it's,
no, it makes sense. It makes sense to me. I mean, classical music is a great classical music. A piece of classical music is similar. I think it's not just a song. It's so much more than that. And then I love the sound of waves. I literally have a white noise machine next to my bed to make the sound of waves, which is quite sad because I can't hear it from where I am. But if I'm ever near the ocean, I have no problem. Leave the door open, the window open, just so I can hear the sound of waves, and I have the best night's sleep ever. So I certainly can understand that.
Classical music, like the way I think I can, like when I play piano or whatever, the way I can, like, in my head, I sound crazy when I say this, but in my head, like a whole show goes on, like whole emotions, like scenes, situations, like the fact that people can express themselves without any words. It just makes music, especially classical music, because of all music, right? But now it's more common that music has words, right? Or like lyrics is the word. It has lyrics, but you know, classical music, because of the interest in harmonies, the interest in everything, it makes its own language that everyone can, they don't even understand it, you can feel it, babies can feel it, animals can feel it, like it's just nothing else compares. And I could just speak about this for ages. But I'm gonna go to the next question, because I'm literally gonna stay here talking about classical music the whole day.
Look, next time you end up getting sent somewhere, I think we should just talk about classical music, because there's some, I mean, you play the piano, I play the violin, and there's something when you hear it's not just the piece of music, but it's also the person performing. And when you hear different great artists perform the same piece and it is so different, I find that really, really interesting. And then you'll find one person's interpretation that you love and another person's that maybe you don't jive with as much. They're both great, but you know, there's a reason, like classical music, the same pieces have been around hundreds of years, and they're going to be around hundreds more because there's something different about them. But yes, so the next question, so that was, what sound do you love? What next question is, what sound do you hate?
What sound do I hate? Oh my god, so many. So many.
You sound like someone who's got a very keen ear.
Yeah, because just like I can pick up on these little things, I pick up all the bad things too. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't have like a dog's hearing or anything like that, but certain sounds, man, and this might again be a Gibraltar thing. The planes are so loud. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could be anywhere and I'll hear one of those planes, and the closer I am, obviously, to the runway, it's like the whole world has to stop. I can't hear anything. I can't, nothing else is happening other than this really loud plane coming our
Yeah.
way. It's so annoying. Like, it's not an annoying sound, but I think the frequency at which I hear it, I'm like, oh my gosh, shush, like, stop it.
You want the plane to turn its engines off.
No, it's not happening.
Yeah.
At work, I've got annoying sound at work. Obviously, being in a lab, in a hospital, there's loads of machines. I do a lot of things manually, depending on the division that I'm in. But in terms of like sample collection and things like that, we just put, in a very basic way, we put all of like the samples into a machine that would receive it, putting on the system and separate it to where it has to go, like one's for microbiology, one's from hematology, one's from here. Like, it will separate it like that. The noises, the beeps, the lights, everything, it's so chaotic when there's loads of things happening at once, and that's just one machine. Then we've got like the incubators and the fridges, and they all make these weird squeaking noises, and the centrifuge looks like it's going to take off. Like, it's like oh, it's there's so many noises that it just blends into one. But whenever I go for like my tea break or like my lunch break, I'm like, wow, it's actually quiet now. Like, I don't recognize that all of, like, I just accept all of these noises. But whenever something starts beeping specifically loud or especially loud, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most annoying thing ever. Like, ever. Anyone who works in the lab knows that the fridges and the incubators, why do they randomly, like, it's just a fridge, right? And then all of a sudden it goes beep, 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 and it doesn't stop. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's happened? What? Why is the fridge freaking out? Like, what? You know what I mean? What's happened now? Things like that. That, for me, worst sounds, because it stresses me out. I can't hack it.
I don't know if you answered particularly what was your least favorite sound. I think there's a lot in there that but what's odd about that answer is because it sounds a little bit like sensory overwhelm, because I have something very similar. It's not just a loud sound, a certain frequency, and I can't exactly tell you what it is, but I know it when I hear it. And when I hear that sound, the whole world stops for me. Like, I'm useless until that sound stops. And the weirdest example, I was playing tennis, and then there was someone on the court next to us resurfacing the court. So they had a grinder, like an angle grinder, a very harsh sound. And I couldn't play just because that sound just really, really set me off. But my friend was fine. And it's not like he's deaf. He can hear. So I think almost it's not just the sound, it's the way it works with your brain as well. And I think some people are more sensitized to it.
Yeah,
and,
it's like an overload, because maybe sometimes, like, maybe I'm speaking to someone at the window, like a patient or a healthcare professional who has dropped off samples, bloods, whatever, talking to someone, and that starts happening. I can't just leave this person, right? But I also can't concentrate a lot. So I'm like,
I get that.
trying hard to be like, okay, I'm listening to what you're saying. And the first moment I go and I turn off the alarms. I can't do it. I'm like, yeah, I'll go and check. I'm going to go ask the hematologist. I'm like, no, I'm going to turn off the fridge first. And then in my path, I'm going to ask the hematologist.
That is, I think that's actually quite a particular, because I was looking into it because of ADHD, and one of the things is sensory overwhelm, auditory specifically. And it turns out that I probably have it. And that sounds very similar to it.
Funny that you say that, because my best friend yesterday, we went for dinner and we were talking about something similar, and he was like, Faith, maybe you have ADHD. And I was like, you know what? I wouldn't be, it's just never been, like, it doesn't get in the way of, like, I've never been checked for it or anything, because I might not have it, like, I might not have it full stop because I've never been checked. I don't know. Oh, because I could be mistaken symptoms and stuff, but it's not at a point where it, like, actually interferes with my day-to-day. So I've never thought of checking, just something that I've never thought of doing. But the more, like recently, just many people have asked me that. I'll say, like, you said that's like a sensory thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I should just get checked.
There are little signs and things, and some people think everything is a sign of it, and some people think ADHD doesn't exist; it's completely made up. I went down my own rabbit hole last year with this and getting diagnosed, and I can tell you, sensory overwhelm is one of it. It's one of the ones that not a lot of people know about, but it's it's not just loud sound. That's why it was so unexpected for me. It's like a particular sound, and it's not like it was annoying. It was catastrophic. Is the only, like, I couldn't play, and I love tennis. I couldn't be there. I just wanted to go over there and punch the person who was making the sound. And I'm not normally a violent person.
Because if I'm like, this happened to me once. I was playing the piano somewhere and this baby started crying. Oh my gosh. It took every brain cell, every neuron to keep playing that. I could, like, this person just got up with the child and left, right? But oh my gosh. And I don't mind babies cry. They're babies. Like, you know what I mean? That's not,
That's what they're supposed to do.
I don't consider that an annoying sound. Like, it's a baby, it's cute. It's like you can find beauty in like new life and stuff. That's the way I think about it. So I don't get angry at the baby. You know what I mean? But literally, I was like, I can't. It's not the baby crying. The baby could have been crying at any other time. It's the fact that I am channeling everything into one thing, and this. It's like here, and I can hear it, and I can't see it, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Look, if it's not directly affecting your life, then it's fine. But I think it's interesting if that conversation comes up. Just bear in mind, I think sensory overwhelm is one of the little things to bear in mind. But anyway, that's a sound. I think we've spoken more about sound than we have about the pageant, but that's okay. Number 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I can't pick one. Oh my gosh. The normal thing would be like to fly or to like read minds and things like that. But I would think but that's not gonna happen. I would like, after a while I get tired of flying, wouldn't I? Like, sometimes I get tired of walking, like that kind of thing. Sometimes I get tired of swimming. So I would say I would want to either read minds, but I don't know, some people might be have weird things, and then I stress myself out about something someone has thought. Or I would want to speak either all languages or to all animals. That would be my superpower, because I think if we could communicate with animals, they know things we don't. I'm convinced they know things that we don't, and they can help us. They can help us.
Can I just say, I already speak to my cat all the time. So
yeah,
I mean, he doesn't necessarily talk back, but
that's the thing. There's no
like, I have a full-on conversation. I do both sides. I do his voice for him, and
I do his voice. Yeah, but like, actually, like, if I would go up the rock and be like, our alpha male is called Gregory. Don't ask. I don't know. Such a
that is not an alpha male name, Gregory.
He's the alpha male. When we go up in the cable car, in the station at the bottom, there's this massive like plaque with his portrait, like really dramatically painted. Gregory is his name. Just
you mean he has a headshot? He has a headshot.
Yeah. So, and a whole description. He is now the alpha male. We had one called Michael. Like, they're all like, we know who these. Imagine if I were to just go up and be like, Greg, right? Lovely doing business with you. What do you need up in this nature reserve? What would make your species flourish? Like, what do you think, or what happens that completely annoys you? Like, are there people here who feed you the wrong things? Like, is there something better for your diet? Is there something better for, I don't know, do you like this climate? Is it worrying? Like, I don't know. The same like with fish and stuff. They could be like, look, you don't know this, but there's this massive block of plastic trapped right there that is killing a bunch of, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like every species and every division in the animal kingdom could help us solve big problems to do with the environment. And that's why
it's a different answer.
That's why my superpower would be to talk to all the animals. That is one that I want.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. Number 8, what job would you like to attempt?
I think, I love my job. I love being a scientist, especially in the medical scene, because I can experiment and make like cool explosions and stuff. But I can also put it to help people. You know what I mean? A job that I'd like to try. I know, oh, that would be scary though. I know that I can't be a pilot because I am a bit colorblind. And there's certain jobs like that that I know I can't do. Like my dad is really colorblind, and I've like it's not common in women, but it was just enough to like get diagnosed. Like every time I say that, like, oh my god, and what color is this? And they point at something bright red. I'm like, that's bright red. But it's on a very minuscule level, but still I can't be like a captain of a boat. I can't fly a plane. I can't things like that. So I'd want to try it just because I know I can't.
Yeah.
But a dream job would be anything. Like it depends on the mood I'm in. Like it's not even like a dream job. It's a job that I would like to try. I would like to try like I think I'd understand everyone more if I try more jobs. You know what I mean? Like something like, I don't know. I would love to be like a surgeon. Like what? Like how can you do that? Like I'm not scared that you're gonna do the wrong thing. Like you get a little shake and that's it. Game over. Like how? Like so much responsibility.
Well, I mean, it's probably not helpful to think about it that way if you're a surgeon. But I get what you mean.
About it that way. But that the extreme. I would love like extreme jobs, like just to try once. You know, astronaut. Girl, send me into the moon. Like,
well, I mean, they're sending you to Miss Grand. Maybe next week you'll be getting sent to the moon. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? They will never know. I will never know. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the next question is, what job would you definitely not like to attempt? So is there anything that you wouldn't like to try? Because it sounds like you want to give everything a go.
Yeah. I mean, it would help me understand many people, even something that I'd think I don't think any job is like a useless job. You know what I mean? I think everything serves its purpose, and I think everyone, regardless, like their job doesn't define them in certain realms. The job doesn't define them, and it doesn't define their intelligence and stuff like that. In some scenarios, it does. Like you're not gonna have a dumb surgeon. Like it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? But you can have people in different jobs. Like I would always think something that doesn't require qualifications would be one of those jobs that no one would aspire to be. But I think a job is a job, and you have to do your thing and get your pay. Like it is what it is. You know what I mean? There are some things that aren't moral, right? Like,
of course, yeah. I mean, those aside
and stuff, but like I'm obviously not gonna do like things like that. But something like cleaner, working in like the hospitality sector, or like, like, you know what I mean? Anything that you don't need a graduate degree for is still very commendable, and so there's nothing that I wouldn't. A job is a job, and obviously I channel myself to what I know I like, and that's science and healthcare. So obviously I put myself there. But job is a job, and if I didn't have that degree or whatever, I would be working somewhere else. And and I would just have to accept it because we have to live and pay. I have to pay my flight to Miss Grant, and it's not cheap. So you know what I mean? I don't think there's any job that's like legal that I wouldn't try.
Okay. Yeah. Important fine print at the bottom.
Yeah, like I'll try any job, and then people start messaging me like, so.
Yes. But that's what social media is like. I'm exactly the same. I don't think there's anything wrong with any job. I think you can find interest in anything. Okay, let's go to the final question then. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Anytime I've thought about arriving at those gates, I don't imagine God. Like, this is really strange. Just because I got to a gate means that God is here somewhere, right? But I would want to see like loved ones and things like that. You know what I mean? But God, like, I would just want him to say like, well done. Like you had a good run, and you yes, like I just want him to be like proud. Like, yeah, you did what you had to do, and that was up. Like, great, and now we're gonna make you as long as they don't make me like an insect, I don't care. Like, make me a dolphin or something. How cool. You know what I mean? I just want him to say that he was proud of me, and that's it, and that people back here, like on land in the world, will remember certain things that I've done, and they're all nice things. So that's it. That's all I can ask, you know what I mean?
You ready for your niece's question?
Is it outrageous?
No.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
It's a very sensible one. Let me bring it up on screen and then we'll wrap up. So she's asked, why do you feel like the right ambassador?
Ooh, why me, basically?
Yeah.
I think that right ambassador for Gibraltar, I feel like I'm just an ordinary girl in Gibraltar that went through all the steps that the vast majority of Gibraltarians go through. You go to the first school, you go to middle school, comprehensive school, and then you get your education and stuff. I think I'm very representative of a Gibraltarian, and all my family has always lived here. You know what I mean? I think I embody many values and principles of a Gibraltarian person, and I go out of my way to educate myself on those areas that I'm maybe not as well versed. So, for example, during my time as Miss Gibraltar, I hosted Pride. I'm not a member of the LGBTQ community, but I'm an ally. So technically I am a member, but you know what I mean? I want to, because when I go abroad, I represent everyone. And in Gibraltar, we have everyone. So I want to, if I get a question on, for example, the LGBTQ community, I want to represent them well in the way that they would want me to. Then I went to the breaking of the fast when it was Ramadan. I don't follow that religion, but I was invited and I went because I think it's important for me to understand the culture and the values of certain communities within the Gibraltarian community, because I'm going to represent them also. So I feel like, besides, doing, just being a standard Janita, like just living, born and raised here, I feel like I recognize the importance of the different communities that make up a Gibraltarian or the Gibraltarian identity, and I go out of my way to educate myself on all those areas, because I can't just represent a whole country based on me, because I am just one example. You know what I mean? So I always take it under in my stride to learn about everything and things like that. That's why I think I'm a good ambassador in Gibraltar. I think I'm a good ambassador in general. I think I'm just, again, going back to I'm just like an ordinary girl that comes from humble beginnings. And if someone can see and, can see me and stuff, they can relate to me and resonate with me, because I worked hard. I'm not saying other girls haven't, but I worked very hard to get where I am, and I currently still do. And I think I'm just a very ordinary person. There's nothing like outrageous, otherworldly or outrageous or anything that was just given to me. Like I work hard, having my own battles with like mental health or whatever as well. I think not that it's not like a proof that I've struggled, but it's it's relatable in the sense that I know that people who come from humble beginnings and work hard and stuff, they come across certain obstacles that would, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm just an ordinary girl that goes through all the normal things, all the normal flows and walks of life, and feels all the feelings. So I think I would, as an ambassador, I would start where I was in terms of advocating for people and stuff like that. I would start, like I still to this day, the mental health organizations and the mental health charities and stuff will always be something that I do, and something that I will always support, because I understand healthcare charities, being a hospital, being a healthcare worker. I understand how much it actually helps. So knowing all of this because of where I've come from as an ambassador, and once if I have a platform to help them, or I have anything to, I can fundraise or whatever, I will always go back there. And I think that really is what drives the community. I could just be like, no, I just want to take my photo shoot to do that advert and get paid. You know what I mean? Like, which fair enough. If that's what someone wants to do, that's what they want to do, and everyone does what they wish. But I think being helped and everything to be where I am today, I want to be that person for other people because I understand how important it is. And we have to, and I always focus it on charities and people who are less fortunate and children, because the children are leaders of tomorrow. So we have to make sure that they're okay. You know what I mean? And people who are less fortunate might have the intent, like people who can't afford to go to school or people who can't do certain things. Maybe they have incredible breakthroughs in some field, but just because they can't afford an education or just because they can't afford XYZ, we're never going to see that. They're not going to live up to that full potential. So I think I think I'm a good ambassador because I'm from humble beginnings and I recognize what it is. Always help that in the hopes that it will better their lives and in turn make a more inclusive and harmonious society for everyone. That will always be my goal. I won't say no to a photo shoot here and there. I've done that, but you know what I mean.
I don't think you have to choose either or. I think you can have both.
Yeah. So I think I will always put the community and others first, especially because my title isn't my name. As Miss Gibraltar, I'm not Faith Torres.
Yeah.
I'm Miss Gibraltar. Gibraltar has to look out for, like, the name is the same and the girl will always change, but that has to stand for something meaningful for the community because it's Miss Gibraltar. You have to, you know what I mean? You have to help Gibraltar. And I don't know, on something like Miss World, like that title, it's about everything happening in the world. You have to give a helping hand in the way that you believe is right. And for me, it will always be to give back to the community and to help those who need help and to elevate certain voices that need to be heard, like charities and nonprofit organizations. And that's why I've always given my platform to others and for others to share, because it's not about Faith Torres, it's Miss Gibraltar and the work that she is doing. That's why.
Your niece, what she thought of your answer, that was her question. I think you gave a very comprehensive answer from two different directions, so I'm sure that'll keep her happy. Sounds like she wants to she can be your interview coach, drill you with some hard questions.
Yeah, she's great. I've always told her like she should do Miss Gib one day.
How old is your niece?
She's 19.
Oh, so she's old enough, so she could do it.
She's studying in the UK right now. It's always age in Gibraltar where we don't have to, but we're sent to UK to further our studies if we want. So she's there right now. So she can't. She doesn't live here.
Fair enough. Well, Faith, it was great catching up. It's been a while.
Likewise.
And I mean, I can't believe you're jetting off in 2 weeks. So that's very soon. But best of luck over there. And I'm sure you will do Gibraltar proud. I will keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang up with the audience. But thanks to everyone for watching. And we will speak to you next time. Bye for now.